Okay, so you've been learning to code. You know the different pieces. But how do you actually build something, a real project from scratch? That's the big question, right? Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle today. Let's do this.
You've learned all this stuff, classes, file I/O, error handling, the works. But then you open up a blank file, and it's like crickets. Where do you even start? It feels like there's a secret instruction manual everyone else has, but you. Believe me, we've all been there. So today, let's write that manual together, step by step.
And this is a huge moment in your journey. Seriously, this is where you go from just memorizing code to actually thinking like a developer. We're going to connect all those dots for you, turning those abstract ideas into a real program you can point to and say, I built that.
So how do we do it? We follow a super simple but incredibly powerful roadmap that pretty much all developers use. Plan, code, and test. It's not just some boring checklist. Think of it as your GPS. It stops you from getting totally lost and helps you build something that's solid, right from the get-go.
All right, let's dive into phase 1, the blueprint. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't build a house just by grabbing a hammer and some nails and hoping for the best, right? You'd start with a blueprint. And guess what? Software is exactly the same. This is where we figure out what our app is going to do and how it's all going to fit together before we write any code at all.
And this is something the experts just can't stress enough. Why? Because an hour spent planning now can save you like 10 hours of wanting to pull your hair out while debugging later. It's the absolute secret to building something clean that you can actually come back to later without it being a total mess.
A really powerful way to think about planning is something called modular design. Instead of trying to build this one giant tangled spaghetti monster of code, you break your project down into smaller, self-contained pieces. It's just like playing with Legos. Each little brick has its own job, right? And you can just snap them together to build something awesome. This makes everything, building, fixing bugs, adding new features later, so much easier. Okay, so let's make this real with our example project, a simple contact book. First things first, what are we actually building? The scope. We're not trying to build the next Facebook here, right? It's a simple contact book. So what does it need to do? Well, the user has to be able to add a contact, view them, search for one, and exit the program. Pretty straightforward. Once we've got that, then we can start designing our little Lego bricks, our classes, and figure out where we're going to store all this information.
And here's where the blueprint starts to look like, well, a blueprint. We're planning out one of our main Lego bricks, the contact class. Just look at this table. The attributes are just the bits of info we want to store. Name, phone number, email. Simple. The methods are the things it can do. Having this all mapped out, it's going to make the actual coding part a walk in the park.
All right, blueprint? Check. Now for the part everyone's been waiting for, actually building the thing. Welcome to phase 2, the build. This is where we get to fire up our code editor, crack our knuckles, and turn that beautiful plan into a living, breathing application. So in the build phase, we'll use all that object-oriented programming stuff you learned to actually create our classes and their methods. But there's another big piece of the puzzle, data persistence. Sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means we need to save our data somewhere, like in a file, so that when you close the app, your contacts don't just disappear forever. Kind of important, right?
And when you're saving that data, you've got a couple of popular choices. You could use a CSV file. Think of it like a super simple spreadsheet, rows and columns, easy to read. Or you could go with something like JSON. That's more like a neat, tidy filing cabinet with labeled folders. It's a bit more structured, which is great if your data gets more complex. There's no single right answer. It all depends on what your project needs.
Okay, let's talk about something that is 100% guaranteed to happen. Things will go wrong. I promise you. Your users are going to enter crazy stuff. Files might not be where you expect them. Stuff happens. And that's where solid error handling comes in. It's what separates an app that crashes all the time from one that feels professional and reliable.
Here are just a few of the common curveballs you should probably expect. What if the data file isn't there? What if the user types hello when you're asking for a phone number? Thinking about these things ahead of time and using tools like try-except blocks to catch them is what makes your application feel polished. It shows you actually care about the person using it instead of just letting it crash on them.
So we've planned it, we've built it, and hey, it runs! It's alive! But hold on, we're not quite at the finish line. We've reached the final and maybe most important phase, the polish. This is where we take our creation and make sure it's not just working, but working beautifully.
So what's the mission here? Well,
First, we become bug exterminators. We hunt down and squash anything that's not working right. Second, we pop the hood and see if we can tune up the engine, make it run a little faster, a little smoother, and finally, and this is so important, we stop thinking like the programmer and start thinking like the user. Is this thing actually easy to use? Is it confusing? We gotta make it a good experience.
A checklist like this is your best friend during testing. Don't just run the program once and say, yep, it works. No, you gotta be methodical. Test every single button, every feature, and then try to break it. Seriously, what happens if you try to add a contact with no name? What if you search for a bunch of symbols? The more you attack your own program now, the less likely it is to fall apart when a real user gets their hands on it.
And just like that, you did it. You went from a totally blank page to a real working application. But the thing is, you built more than just a contact book. You built a foundation, a framework you can use for pretty much any project you dream up from this day forward.
Just remember those 3 steps. Plan, code, test. That's the cycle. By following it, you didn't just type out some code. You actually practiced the skills, like modular design and smart error handling that professional developers use every single day.
What you have now, it's not just a folder with some files in it. It's proof. It's a tangible thing that shows off your skills. It's a huge boost to your confidence. And it's the kind of real, practical experience that you just can't get from reading a book. You did it.
So that leaves just one big question, doesn't it? What's next for you? You now have the blueprint for turning an idea into reality. You've built a contact book. What amazing thing are you going to build tomorrow?